Okay, so it was the summer of 1956, and I was like 9.5 years old. And I would go and spend the day at work with my mother, and she worked in the Senate office building in Washington, D.C., and she was working for Bobby Kennedy, who was a special investigator, and he was conducting the hearings for Teamsters Union and Jimmy Hoffa, and whether or not he was doing stuff illegally and whatever. And they had, all the guards in the building knew me, because I was there all summer, practically, skipping around in my little dress and my little patent leather Mary Janes. And turn that off, it's too noisy.
It's making noise.
Just push the off button, we'll turn the heat on later.
I can't see it good enough to see the off
It's
button.
all the way on the right top is the power button. There you go. Careful, don't trip. Okay. So I would spend my days while she was working running the halls of the Senate building and the Capitol, all that kind of stuff. And the guards knew me, and they, instead of sitting in the gallery, which was above the floor of the Senate, I actually was on the floor where they were having the hearing, and they had a little roped off section, had little velvet rope things around it. And there were about a dozen chairs inside those ropes. And so I was sitting there. I didn't understand what was going on, but it was just cool being in this place where there was all these, there was a whole bank of senators that were, you know, those big desks you've probably seen on TV with all of them when they're doing an investigation. And they have people sitting at tables testifying and stuff. Anyway, that was just where I would sit and observe. Well, so I'm sitting there one day, and I had to go to the bathroom. So I got up and I left. And I had my own little card that got me into the Senate gallery and into the House of Representatives gallery. Had my name on it, and like I said, everybody, the guards knew who I was. And so I went off to the bathroom, and I came back, and I came in, and Jimmy Hoffa was sitting in my seat. He was in my seat, and I was so mad. Well, he was the boogeyman. You know, he was like the biggest
crook.
Yeah, that I could, you know, he was, in my mind, he was like this really, really, really bad guy. And so I got inside the little ropes, and I sat in the back row on the opposite. It's like, there were only like 3 rows of 4 chairs, and I had been in the front one right up there closest. And that's where he was. So I had to sit at the back, and I sat there, and I just glared at the back of his neck. I know I burned holes in the back of his neck.
You're the one that killed Jimmy Hoffa.
I am. I'm convinced that contributed to his death. But I was so mad. How dare he take my chair? He was in my seat. Yep.
Tell about Ruth Young.
I can't remember them all in order, but I know when I was really little, she worked for an attorney named George McLeish, and he was just a little town attorney. That was when I was in primary school and elementary school. And then when we moved to our house out in Cheverly, the big house that you remember, the brick house, she went to work for the county, Prince George's County, and she was the clerk of the court there in Prince George's County for a lot of years. And then she went to work for Barry Goldwater. I think that was the first thing she did that was downtown.
She went to work for Barry Goldwater before she started working for Bobby Kennedy?
That's what I'm not sure I remember, because she went to work for him, and he was his last term as senator before he ran for president. He didn't run for president until 1964. So this would have been the late 50s, mid to late 50s. So I don't remember if she worked for Bobby Kennedy before that or...
So I remember being in Barry Goldwater's office when I was like 6.
Yeah.
Because all I remember is he had a candy bowl and I wanted that candy. That's all that was important to me.
The thing I remember about his office was his signature machine.
Oh, really?
It was a big disc, and it was like a giant record, and it had little bumps in it. And when it went around, there was a pen attached to it, and it signed his name.
Really?
I guess all the senators had it. I don't know.
Really?
But it signed his name. So if you have a signature, it might have been made by the machine.
That's interesting.
But yeah, she worked, and I don't know when she worked for. I know if you read Profiles in Courage, Bobby Kennedy's book that he wrote, Ruth's name is on the dedicatory page, along with like 20 other people that were secretaries and assistants and administrative assistants and that sort of thing. The other job that she had that I thought was really interesting, and I don't remember the year, but it was around probably 1970, early 70s, late 60s. They formed something called the National Transportation Safety Board, NTSB. And there were 5 members appointed, and one of them was my mother's boss. She was working at another office somewhere, and he was, I'll think of his name in a minute. He was the administrative assistant in that office, and he was named as a member of the NTSB. And Mother went with him because she was his secretary. And she was the only secretary for all 5 board members for months till they all established their offices.
That's a lot of work.
And hired their own secretaries. Yeah. Because before that, she was working for the CAB, which was the Civil Aeronautics Board. That's where she was working, where her boss was then appointed to NTSB. And that's where your Uncle Alan worked. And there was a computer that he programmed, the computer that was almost as big as this room.
Yeah.
And it had the punch cards. And he would save the sacks of all the little punch out things. And I would take them to the football games at high school. And they were confetti.
Confetti. That's funny.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah, that was. And Dad was working for the Federal Housing Administration, it was called then, and now it's called HUD.
Yeah.
And
He was an auditor,
he was
right?
an auditor for them, and he traveled a lot.
So did he have a CPA degree of some sort? What did
He had a business degree, an accounting degree
Okay.
from Babson Institute, I think is the name of the college he went to. I know he got a bachelor's degree certificate years later after the fact, because they didn't offer a bachelor's at the time. And
That's
then he
interesting.
attended school. And